Hello, this is Faith Paulme from Grade-9 of Weva, and I will be your guide in narrating the process that our group undergoed in the 8-subject integrated project pop-up book as of third quarter grading. The initial step we took in making this project is inquiry, both from our teachers and classmates, about the content and criteria of the project. After various fact-checking and confirmation from our teachers, we proceeded to the next step. It was our group's unanimous decision to begin working on the project with first brainstorming for creative ideas as well as for research that we would need for the pop-up book. We executed this by dividing the tasks, particularly content, per subject that consists of the pop-up book. For example, Layosa was assigned to the tasks needed for the subjects Filipino and English, while I, Paulme, took care of what was necessary for the math and MAPE project. Our other members, Manyas and Fuertes, focused on the other unmentioned subjects and assisted Layosa and I for the other tasks. In the end, we agreed that the most practical material we can use for the cover and page of our pop-up book is carton, which all of us have abundant resources of, and also the use of colored papers, in which I happen to have a bunch of. However, the next week was more productive as we learned to, both individually and as a group, to be systematic. And so, we made a list with all information about the content needed for each subject, as well as dates and deadlines that correspond to it. As a group leader, I volunteered to initiate the work by doing the cover of the pop-up book individually, which, as I've mentioned, is made out of carton and colored papers. This was the product of our group's idea of making the pop-up book's title catchy, as well as illustrating a volcano in the center. For context, the elevated style of each figure made out of the carton, which is seen in the cover, is because of my intention of adding carton bits below it, which we also incorporated in the other subjects. Next, we focused on one subject, which was Filipino. The subject's content was researched by Layosa, whom Manyas assisted in doing so. Fuertes and I focused on the subject's creative work. The first pair brought from home the research, while the second pair brought home our ideas and sample for the artistic side of the project, which our group worked on and completed during school hours. At home, I made finishing touches to it, resulting in a craft focused with an centered illustration of volcano-themed page. After, we proceeded to the subject of MAPE. To be honest, our group wanted to make the page for this subject more visually impactful than the others, at the same time to complete it in a faster pace, mainly because of the impending criteria which is related to its aesthetics, and the deadline which is a day earlier than for the other subjects. And so, our strategy for this subject was to focus on its design and craft, which I suggested to be purple, red, and black themed, as well as to add more of a wow impact to it by adding an actual pop-up of 2 volcanoes concealed by a door-like cover. As we complete needed tasks for each subject one by one, we did not forget our list, which we continually update and check. The third and fourth subject was, admittedly, much swifter to complete than the others. This was because the needed content for the subject of math and English was beforehand thoroughly researched, thanks to our group's initial strategy to first take care of the needed content per subject. And so, we spent a longer time envisioning and creating a design for both subjects' pages. The third and fourth subject was, admittedly, much swifter to complete than the others. This was because the needed content for the subject of math and English was beforehand thoroughly researched, thanks to our group's initial strategy to first take care of the needed content per subject. And so, we spent a longer time envisioning and creating a design for both subjects' pages. As for English, which had a bit more information than math, requires more space for the content and less for a pop-up design. We carefully decided on its red and black concept and simply pasted it after one another with labels above it. For fictional content, which takes up a bit space, Layosa's suggestion was to fold it in half and have the label of the information written on its cover. As Fuertes briefly mentioned the lack of pop-up and design of the subject, we proceeded in dedicating the second page of the subject into a complete pop-up illustration. We researched for a tutorial in making an easy pop-up illustration, and through Fuertes and I's combined effort, we managed to skillfully achieve it, with the rice grain background properly conveyed in the pop-up. I could guarantee that the last two subjects we worked on, ESP and AP, had the most many in terms of information. And so, our group agreed that we looked for crafts or design that would help reduce the space needed for each information. For example, for the AP section, as suggested by Manyas, we used a stair-like craft to reduce the space for the bottoms-up approach required, and utilized a vase pocket design where a series of information could be kept. We also dedicated its next page for a pop-up illustration, which consisted of an abstract design of a volcano made by me and a slide-like craft on its cover for the picture done by the other members. Our procedure in the last subject, ESP, was somewhat similar to what we did for the AP subject. We also incorporated the vase pocket craft for the part of content that was too many to fit in the page, and this time made a 3 volcano pop-up that was concealed by a folded colored paper on the side of the page. These crafts were mainly done by me and assisted by Fuertes and Manyas, while I also took care of the waterfall craft for the pictures needed in the subject. Before pasting it all in the page, I suggested a simple yet catchy brown and orange theme which suits the ESP subject well. As usual, I made finishing touches to it at home. As we go through the finished product of our pop-up book, let me share the individual reflections our group had as we were doing this project. My reflection throughout the making of the pop-up book is that projects like this are extremely tedious and require a lot of effort and dedication. That is why being disciplined and organized with tasks as well as proper time management is needed. I also learned from this project that receiving help is much better than doing things alone, and helping others is as much as important too.
Pagkakaroon ng malinaw na layunin, mahalaga na malinaw ang layunin ng pop-up, tulad ng pagtataguyod ng isang produkto o paglilingkod. Pagpaplano at paghahanda ay mahalaga upang matiyak na ang paggawa ng pagiging matagumpay. Pagkakaroon ng mahusay na pagsubaybay sa mga resulta ay mahalaga upang matiyak na ang pop-up ay nakamit ng mga layunin nito. Pagtaas ng kaalaman, ang paggawa ng mahusay ay nagbibigay ng pagkakataon upang matuto ang mga bagong kasanayan at kaalaman. Ang paggawa ng pop-up ay nagbibigay ng pagkakataon upang maipakita ang kreatibidad at pag-iisip ng bawat isa. Masaya ako habang iniisip ko kung paano gawin ang pop-up dahil lahat ng natutunan ko sa gawain ay pinag-aralan ko ng mabuti at isinigawa ng mahusay.
Tungkol sa pop-up na nakasalaysay sa mga iba't ibang subjects, kung ano nararamdaman ko habang gumagawa kami para sa pop-up namin. Gumawa-gawa kami ng mga designs o mga information na dapat i-research na nakatungkol kung anong dapat gawin o mga tanong sa reflection. Maraming gagawin na design o stress sa pop-up dahil malapit ang deadline. At minamadali na namin ito sa paggawa ng pop-up. Pero masaya naman gumawa ng mga pop-up.
And as for me, one of the major learnings that I have gained in this activity was time management. I have learned how to manage my time as a student, as a church member, and as a journ for the school. I have learned how important time is, especially during times like this. I have learned that I can't do everything alone. I have faced the consequences of my action and met my weaknesses. However, My group mates were always there to help me get through it.